Welcome everybody. I Prakash Ranjan Sinha on behalf of NISM again welcome you back to this financial literacy program. And we had talked about how to manage income as well as expense. And we had seen that income is not totally in my hand, but expense management is in my hand. So how I'm going to manage my expenses. And the basic reason for expense management is to save. So when we are talking about saving, what do I mean? That means I need to save money. But for what I want to save my money, that's very, very important. All of must be talking about for investment. But before going for investment, I want to make safe also. So when you look at save, whatever you save, why you save? Because you want that safety aspect also. So whenever we are talking about investment, we always talk save liquidity, safety, and return. So this safety word is coming from where? Safe. Now this is a very, very important word. Let me tell you. This is an action. I'm saving money. I'm earning 50,000. I am saving 10,000 or 20,000. But for what I'm saving this money? Safety. But let me go deeper into that safety. Again, for why am I making my money safe? Now, all of us know, we are going to look at this thing. If I keep my money in the locker at my home, I think that's the safest place. But is money safe? We need to ask it. Why money is not safe? We are going to talk in this chapter. So ultimately, when we look at safety, safety has got a deep implication. Safety means simply whatever you require at whatever point of time, you should be getting without any loss. Now, the key aspect is making this money safe is no loss. Now, as we are going to extend further, when we are going to go deeper into this chapter, you will understand what do I mean. And anybody, when he looks at the three words, I think everybody wants that. So let's go ahead. So what we will cover? Power of compounding, rule of 72, 115 and 144, cost of procrastination means delay, impact of inflation, time value of money, and how to save. Let me tell you a story. There was a king. I would say story as well as a puzzle also for you people. And you think what I'm going to say. So let's say there was a king and he had an event in his kingdom. And he told that whosoever is going to win will be getting a very good prize. He did not declare the prize, but he said a very good prize. So everybody participated and Mano won that event. So finally, the king declared the prize. And the prize was, there are two choices and you have to select one. Choice one, after 30 days, you will be getting rupees 50 crore. Choice two, first day, 1 rupee, which will get doubled in the second day, again, which will get doubled from that amount to the third day again. That means every day it will keep on doubling. And whatever the amount which becomes on the 30th day, that you will be getting. So Manav had a choice to make whether to go for choice one or choice two. Now, what do you think Manav would have made the choice? Choice one or choice two? So before deciding what to go for, Manav, being a very, very clever person, he did not act like a layman. He thought, let me do the calculation. And he said to king, sir, please just give me some minute. So king, okay, take your own minute. So what Manav did, he did a calculation. On day one, I'll be getting 1 rupee. Day two, it is doubling, becoming 2. Day 3, it is doubling, it is becoming 4. Day 4, it is doubling, it is becoming 8. Day 5, it is doubling, I am going to get 16. So like this, he did till 30 days. And when he calculated, it was 53. Obviously, 53 is more than 50. So which one is the better choice? So now, when you look at it, when Manav did all this calculation, finally he understood that 50 crore after 30 days and taking 53 crore after 30 days, of course, choice 2 was better. So answer is very clear. Choice 2 is better. Now, very important thing is, for any normal person, it would have been tempting to go for choice 1, because at that very first day, I know what I'm going to get it. But when I look at it, choice 2 is better. Why? Because you need to plan, think, calculate. Now, this is a very, very important thing, aspect. Whenever we are saving, investing, we are talking all about numbers. So calculation is very, very important thing. But more important point is, why he got this much? What if, let me ask you another question. What if rather than 30, it was 100? Then you can very well imagine where it would have gone. Much, much, much bigger amount. What if the starting was not 1, but 2? So we need to understand few things. Money multiplies. And whenever we are looking at anything, what we are going to get, whenever we are making an investment, we are saving all other things, this multiplication thing is something which we are very important thing for us to understand. So when we are talking about money getting multiplied, so here money is not grown arithmetically. In fact, money has grown geometrically, or I can say exponentially. So what is the cause of that? The cause is compounding. Money is getting compounded. 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. So we need to understand this is a very, very important aspect whenever we are looking as far as investment is concerned. So what is power of compounding? Power of compounding means interest on interest. All of us know what is simple interest. For example, let's say if you have invested 100 rupees, and if the bank manager says you are going to get 8% simple interest, then you are going to get 8%. That means after 1 year, let's say you are going to rupees 8 after 1 year. Next year also you are going to get 8, 2 years. Third year also you are going to get 3 years. So every year you are getting something. But the same example, if I have to talk to you about compounded interest, then it means you are not taking this 8 rupees with yourself. What is happening? This 8 rupees remains invested. So next year it becomes 108. And you get 8% on this 108. So what is happening in a power of compounding? Though the interest rate remains the same, please make a note of it. But what happens? The base keeps on changing. That means the base has grown, whereas here the base remains the same. That means it is earning interest on interest. Now what has happened? Why you have earned more? Because money got reinvested. So this 8 rupees, rather than taking, it got again reinvested back and it is growing. Now we have talked about power of compounding. But power of compounding does very well when, one, it is for long-term investment. Now let's look at it. Many of you might be 20 years of age, maybe 25 years of age. And if I ask you for how long you are going to invest, you can easily save 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Maybe somebody wants to invest for happy retired life, retirement corpus, 35 years. Now, can you imagine with this power of compounding, how it's going to magnify the return? So, how we calculate it? So, this is the formula. That means the amount which you will be getting, principal which you have invested, 1 plus rate of return, And here, n is the period. But what is this? This is the key aspect. To the power of. That means when I'm saying to the power of, that means it is multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. So, two things are very important here. One, in fact, I would say three things are important. How much you invest, what is the rate of return, and also the period. In other words, if you are investing 1,000 every month, or if you are investing 5,000 every month, naturally, the result, the outcome of 5,000 will be more. If you are getting 8%, or if you are getting 12%, then the outcome or the result of 12% will be more. If you are investing for 5 years, or 10 years, or 15 years, or 20 years, the result of 20 years will be more. So more the amount, more the rate of return, and more the period. This is going to really magnify your money, the growth of your money. So this is the power of compounding. So just look at it by example, which I told you. Now, power of compounding has been told as the eighth wonder of this universe. All of us know there are 7 wonders. And who is a person that has told this thing? Albert Einstein, which is a renowned scientist. And when we look at this, why he said eighth wonder? Because your money is growing like anything. And just look at the example here. Let's say if somebody is investing 1,000 rupees per month, if it is growing at the rate of 6%, in 5 years, how much he has got? Just look at 10 years, how much he has got. Just look at, now what has happened? If I just look at these two figures, just look at these two figures. And if I look at the difference, and if I just look at the difference between these two, it is more. If I just look at the difference between these two, it is much more. That means longer the period, even the rate of interest or return is the same, you get more. Now just look at and compare this with this. And again with this. Now higher the rate of interest or return, again it is also increasing. So both the period as well as the return, it really adds wonders to your investment or to your money. And just look by this example, 1,000 rupees per month, 20 years and 15%. How much you are accumulating? 14,97,239. And if I do just a rough calculation, 1,000 multiplied by 20 multiplied by 12, how much it becomes? $2,40,000 has become 14,97,000. So the person has invested 1,000 rupees per month, which is not a very big amount. This is not a very big amount. It's not a very big amount. But since the money has grown at a high rate of return as well as period is long, from an investment of 2,40,000, which has happened in 20 years on a monthly basis, he has got 14,97,239. Now, we were talking about to increase the net worth. The best way to increase the net worth is using the route of power of compounding, investing for a longer period, and of course, try to maximize on the return side. Now, there are some other rules which is applicable there. Rule of 72. What does rule of 72 says? It says, by what time your money gets doubled, that's what it says. So let's say, for example, if somebody money gets doubled after 9 years, for example, let's say, so that means 72 divided by 9, that means money is getting doubled, that is getting double at the rate of 8%. So from rule of 72, I can calculate, if I'm having the numbers of years, how much percentage of return I've got it in case the money has got doubled. Or if this was the percentage of return, how many years it took for the money to get doubled. So this is rule of 72. Now there's another rule which is called rule of 115. So this tells us how many years it took to triple the money. Same way, 115, let's say, is divided by the number of years, let's say, if it has become triple, and it will tell you return, percentage return. Same way, rule of 144 is going to tell you how much number of years it will take for the money to become 4 times. Now, up till now, we have been talking one thing. If you really want to enjoy the 8th wonder of the world, then the period should be longer. But unfortunately, what happens? For example, many people, when they start earning, they think maybe they are, let's say, 22 years of age. They think, boss, I've got another 40 years to work. I can start investing after 2 years or 3 years, or maybe I can take after some time. But what happens? Yes, you'll make money, but maybe you are not going to make the same amount of money which you can do if you start early. So let me give you with an example. For example, let's see, if somebody invests for his retirement corpus 1,000 rupees per month, assuming that this is growing at the rate of 12%, and he's investing for his retirement corpus, which is going to happen at the age of 60 years. Let's say he is starting at the age of 25. That means he is having 35 years to become 60. So what will happen? By the time he turns to be 60, he would have got 64,39,000. Let's say that person thinks, yes, I've got another 35 years. Even if I delay it by 5 years, it's not going to matter much. Let's say he starts investing at the age of 30. Same. Now he's having another 30 years. Same 1,000 rupees per month. But he is going to get somewhere about 34 lakh, some 40,000 like this. Now here the question is not what he has got. The question is what he has not got. By just delaying for 5 years, he has lost how much? 34 lakh, which he could have made. Now it's very important for us to understand, whenever we talk of loss, loss is not only of money, loss is also of opportunity. So here, when there was an opportunity for him to accumulate wealth up to 64 lakh, by just delaying 5 years, he has lost 30 lakh. So whenever we look loss also, please, we have to be very realistic. Loss is not only of money, because for this person also, he has got a good amount of money. But when he comes to know, look, I delayed it for 5 years, I could have got 30 lakh more, then he will feel sorry why he got delayed. So delay in investment, definitely, the more you delay, you're not going to gain, because you're not going to get benefited from the power of investing. Now let's take off another situation, because we are talking about a retirement at the age of 60. Somebody can again say, okay, boss, I'm still very young. And today we see even Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan are acting like a school student, college student. So they are also very young. So you might think, boss, I'm not very old. So maybe, yes, let me start at the age of 35. Now he's got another only 25 years of left to become the age of 60. So here also his money will grow. But it will be somewhere about 18.43 lakh. So what we are learning from this, the more you delay, you have got lesser number. Please just look at it. This is the number. This is reducing. This is reducing. This will keep on reducing. And because the number of year is less, the power of compounding impact is not that. Even though you are getting a good amount. But again, what is important for me is to understand, here I am losing 30 lakh. Here, just by delaying by 10 years, I have lost how much? 64 minus 18. It's a huge amount. So loss is not only of money, loss is of opportunity of also. So today, when power of compounding helps you to money grow like anything, one should take the best advantage of it. Now let me give you another example of procrastination. There is Mr. A, who also thought, let me invest. And he is investing how much? 10,000 every month. Same for, let's say, for retirement. So 10,000 every month he has invested. And let's say up to 5 years he could invest. That means he has invested some amount. Maybe due to some financial reason or maybe some personal reason or family reason, he could not continue the investment. But one good thing which he did was, he did not withdraw that money. So what is happening? Whatever amount which was accumulated here, let's say X, it continued to grow. It continued to grow. That was the thing. Now, there was another person, Mr. B. He started at the age of 40 and invested for 20 years. So, same amount. He also started investing 10,000, but for 20 years. Now, when you compare the two, here Mr. A has invested only 5 years, where he has invested 20 years. That means 4 times more. The amount which has been invested is more to 4 times. So here he has invested 6 lakh, whereas here he has invested 4 times more, that is 24 lakh. Now, assuming that the rate of return was 15%, assuming that the rate of return was 15% for both of them per annum, A ended up getting this much, whereas B ended up getting this much. Why it was? What was the reason? The reason was, from here onward also, this is what has happened. This is what has happened. So, even if somebody is not able to continue with the investment because of some reasons, though it should not happen, but if since he has not withdrawn it, he has been able to accumulate a much higher amount than the other person. So this is another way of looking at things. Now all of us know what is inflation. Now we know inflation more from a real life perspective. For example, let's say the price of diesel goes up, the price of petrol goes up, the price of food grain goes up, vegetables have become very costly, fruits have become very costly. So we know what is inflation. Inflation is nothing but is a price rise of whatever we are consuming. It could be anything. So basically, it is calculated wholesale price index as well as consumer price index. Earlier in India, inflation was calculated based on this. But now it is being calculated at the consumer price index. When I'm saying wholesale price index, it was calculated on the aggregate level, on the wholesale market basis. When it is calculated at the consumer price index, it is calculated at the end of the consumer, what you and I are consuming. So this is one thing. But when we look at inflation, we look at I would say in a very, very different way. Our perception of inflation is very, very narrow, let me tell you. Because we are concerned more about the prices of consumable items which we use in our day-to-day life. As I told you, petrol prices going up, fruits prices going up, vegetable going up. So we know that thing. But the important thing is, whenever the prices goes up, what is our mindset? Are we happy or we are unhappy? It's not that we are unhappy. many of the times we become angry also. What is the reason for getting angry? Because the reason of getting angry is the same 100 rupees which was in my pocket. If I went to buy something, I bought some quantity. But if the inflation goes up, and if I go to the market to buy same thing from that 100 rupees, I'm buying at lesser quantity. Now, there's very, very important thing for understand, because since I'm able to buy lesser quantity, let's say for example, rather than getting 10 kgs of apple, I'm able to get 10 kgs, I'm able to get, let's say, 8 kg. That means I'm shortfall of 2 kg. If my consumption has been 10 kg for my whole family, that I am falling short of it. Now what I can do? Either I manage with that 8, there's no choice, or what I can do? Other thing is, which many people do not understand, is counter this. Counter it. It's very, very important. Because inflation is not in anybody's control. Let's understand this. Inflation is a part and parcel of economy as a whole. For example, let's say we are 140 or 145 crore citizens. Now, every citizen of this country has a right to live, right to eat, right to consume. Everybody has got a right. Now, everybody, depending upon his capabilities, his income level, they are spending and living the life which they want. So inflation, when I look at the inflation is nothing but a net effect of whatever is being consumed within the economy. And as I told you, inflation is a part and parcel of any economy. Now, for a country like India, inflation is bound to exist and bound to grow. For the very simple reason, today we know with the uses of internet, smartphone in our hand, what is best available, where it is available, how to acquire it. So to purchase those things is not a problem. We can go for online shopping. So we know all those things. So what has happened today, if we look at the lives of the Indians in particular, because we are going to talk about India in particular, the lifestyle pattern has got changed. So which is not going to reverse. Let me tell you, inflation will be there today. Inflation will be 10 years from now also. Inflation impact will be there 20 years from now also. So that will be there. Please let be assured. So I and you or any citizen of this country has got no control. Because again, as I tell you, inflation is nothing but a mismatch of demand and supply. Now, when we are talking about the essentials, let's say, for example, eatables, we have got a fixed land on which it is being grown, farmland, or let's say whether fruits, vegetables are being, it's a fixed land. We cannot grow it, expand it like anything. But when we look at the demand is growing. Now, what is happening? Inflation is nothing but a mismatch between supply and demand. So it is not in our control. We have to face it. We have to counter it. So the best way to manage the inflation is counter it. Because I take inflation as so we know we have been talking about money in all our sense. Now, when I am saying it reduces the purchasing power of money, I need to protect it. And if the purchasing power of money is getting reduced, then of course, that is the biggest enemy. I cannot do anything about that, and let me tell you very frankly. But what I can do, how I can counter. And I can counter that only by right, careful, and proper investment. That's the only way I can do it. Now let's look the impact of inflation in coming slides. So before we go ahead and we see the impact, let's try to understand real versus nominal. You go to a bank and say, sir, I want to deposit. So the bank manager is saying, okay, I'll give you 7%. So this 7% is nominal. That means it has been committed by bank. Let's say, for example, you have invested 100 rupees. After a year, you are getting 107. So this 100 was your own money and the 7 rupee which you got it. Now the very basic question is, why I have deposited my money at the bank? I could have kept it my home only, but I have deposited. Or maybe I have invested anywhere, let's say. Why I have done this? Because I'm going to use this for some purpose. And here when I'm talking about the purpose, it is of course consumption. Let's put it this way. So I have invested 100 rupees in bank FD because I'm going to take that money at some stage and I'm going to use it for some purpose. So some purpose or some objective. But what is the objective? The objective is very clear. Take that money, buy something. Now when I'm buying that something, important is cost of XYZ, whatever I'm buying it. Now, if the same thing was, let's say, worth 100 rupees a year back, and it becomes 106, then you can just see how much you are able to save. So when we are investing or depositing, this is what I am getting. But ultimately, that is not for what I have done it. Because the purpose of saving or investment is to use that money for some purpose. So what is important for me is not nominal, but real. And real means net of inflation. So real is 1 plus nominal rate divided by 1 plus inflation rate, minus 1. So let's say, for example, if somebody is getting 10% as a nominal return, and if 6% is the inflation, then he's not getting 10%. In fact, he's getting much lesser than that. It comes somewhere about 3.76 if I calculate it. Now, here we are talking all about in terms of percentage. But if you look at it, ultimately this percentage is a calculation. What you are getting in your hand is the money. Now let's make this thing understand in a very, very simple words. Each one of you must be having a purse. And in your purse, you are having 10 rupees note, 20 rupees note, 50 rupees note, 100 rupees note, 200 rupees note, and let's say 500 rupees note. Are notes equally important for you? Do you give the 10 rupee note the same value as 500? Answer is no. The reason is very simple. Because this is not a piece of paper. This both have got a purchasing power. It is not a piece of paper. Now, if we understand the value of 10 or 100 or 200, then we should be very clear the purchasing power of money has to be kept intact. It should not be losing. So that's why I said it is the biggest enemy of the money. What does not matter to me is the nominal return is not what matters to me. What matters to me is the real, what I am getting in hand. Ultimately, I am going to use this only. for spending, for my consumption. So whenever we are looking at any return, any investment, anything, this is what should be managed. Please remember, nominal rate is always positive. 6%, 7%, 8%, it will be always positive. But real rate of return can be negative also. I'll give you a situation. Same. Somebody invested 100 rupees. Let's say they got 7% return. Now, if they have to pay tax, and assuming that that tax person is in a tax bracket of 30%, so that person is not going to pay this 30%. And if I add the surcharge, it is not going to pay on 7%, or let's say 3.676%, let's say in this example, he is not going to pay on this, he is going to pay on this. So we don't pay even tax on the real rate of return. We pay tax on the nominal rate of return. So if I have to calculate net of tax, then of course the return will be much lesser than what even we are seeing it. So the real rate of return again is subject of inflation as well the taxation. Now if you remember, I just said inflation is the biggest enemy of money. Just look at it. So let's say 1 lakh today, what was its value? Purchasing, please remember, purchasing power. Notional terms, 1 lakh will remain look as in 1 lakh only when you are looking at just from the paper form. But I'm looking more from the purchasing power, because I told you, if 10 rupees was equal to 500 rupees, then you would have not given importance to 500 rupees. You have given importance to 10 rupees also. So the purchasing power is what matters. Now, 20 years ago, what you could have purchased from 1 lakh today, the purchasing power of that money was 3,20,714. That means more than 3.2 times. So when I'm saying purchasing power more than 3.2 times, that means I would have consumed more thing or would have purchased more thing. But what is more important is, what will be the purchasing power of the same 1 lakh 20 years back? 31,180. And if I look at just this 40 years, it's not a very big term. 40 years, let's say. 40 years. Because all of us live 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years. So 40 years is not something very small. But if you look at it, the thing which has got a purchasing power of 3,20,714, it became 31,180. So if I have to look at it, how much erosion it would have happened, if you calculate it, it is going to come somewhere about So what has happened? 94% of the purchasing power of money has got eroded. That's why I've said this is the biggest enemy of money. Enemy of money. Inflation is a part of economy. You and I as an individual cannot do anything because we are just one of the 140 crore people. But you and I should know how to counter it. That's the thing. So whenever somebody is thinking of investment, anywhere, let's say, what should matter to him is the real rate of return. That's what is manning, taking into account of the inflation. Because whatever money you are going to get in hand, ultimately you are going to use that money. The basic purpose of investment is what? My money should grow. And at some stage of my life, after 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, I am going to consume that money for some purpose. But we also know, due to inflation, the cost of goods and services are increasing. And I don't need to explain. Ask your parents. If you have got a grandfather at your place, ask him, sir, how much did it cost to buy 1 kg of rice or wheat, or even 1 kg of, let's say, potato? And just see what answer he's going to give you. And just see how much we are paying today. So we know the impact of inflation from a real life situation. So this is an example to tell you how the value of money is getting eroded, and particularly why? Because of inflation. And the only thing what we can do is we need to counter that. Now, as I show you, 94% has got eroded. What I am left with? So as we saw, 94% of the purchasing power of money has got eroded. The real issue is what I'm left with. Hardly anything. Now there is another point to look at it, which is again very few people realize. Let's say we are talking about the purchasing power of money getting eroded. Let's say, for example, after 1 year, after 5 years, after 10 years, after 20 years, let's say. Now the purchasing power of money is getting eroded in all the cases, but the erosion is less. Erosion is slightly more. The erosion is more, and the erosion is more. Longer the period, please remember, longer the period, there is more erosion of money. Now, when we talk of money, each one of us know we are having 70 years, 80 years, or 90 years to live on this earth. Tell me one example of one person who has lived on this world without using any product or service in all his 80 or 90 years of life. Even the newly born baby, or even somebody is having his last breath, they are also consuming something or the other. You and I, when we are talking at this point of time. So when we saw what we are left with, that means ultimately net of inflation, what we are left with. And longer the period, the impact of inflation is more. Now, it's very, very important thing for understand is that we are saving, we are investing, we are going to get X amount of money after some time. We are more concerned about the net what we are having in hand, net of inflation. So not what we are left with, that is something of our concern. Now, if I look from the life perspective, we are born consumer. We are lifelong consumer. We are on this earth for 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, I don't know till what time we are there. But there is not a single day in our life, or I would say rather, not a single second in our life when we are not consuming something. A child which is born, he is also a consumer, consuming something. And the person who is taking a last breath, he is also consuming something. So consumption is a very, very important thing. And all this consumption need is met through money. So that's why I said inflation is the biggest enemy of the money, because it erodes the purchasing power of money, and longer the period, more is the erosion. So we need to protect ourselves from inflation. Now let me give you another concept or example, which is called a rupee today has got more value than the rupee tomorrow. So let's me give you another example. Let's say, for example, 100 rupees today and 100 rupees after 1 year. Which one is more valuable? Now, in notional terms, both looks same, but 100 rupees today is more valuable. The reason being, if I'm having 100 rupees today in my hand, I can use it, I can consume it. That's the first reason. The second reason is I can invest this money and I get some gain. And the third reason, which is very, very important, is if I get 100 rupees after a year, and if I don't use this, just keep it idle, then the value of this 100 rupees will be less than this. So money has got a time value. And we have seen in our earlier power of compounding that longer the period, the power of compounding has got a much positive impact. Whereas when I look at it, the inflation, longer the period, the impact of inflation is more. So if I have to look at it, compounding adds longer the period more, whereas inflation erodes the purchasing power of money. Now, both these concepts are very, very important for each one of us to understand whenever we are taking a decision of investment, both the things, because ultimately we have to get a net real rate of return or a growth of our money. So that's very, very important for each one of us to understand. Now let's look at how we can save. What are the ways to save? We earn, we spend, we save. What we should be doing it? Save first, then spend, or spend, and then whatever surplus is left, save and invest. Now, if I go by spend first, then as I have shown you and I've told you also through various examples, there are chances where I can overspend. And maybe I'm not having any money to save and to invest. So the better way is always save first and then spend. Now somebody can say, boss, why you're saying this way? Ultimately, when I look at it, why I'm saving it or investing it? Whatever I'm saving and investing, I'm going to use in my life only, or maybe for the benefit of myself or my children. So basically, if I look at it, investment is nothing investment is deferred so look at it. Investment is nothing but it is a deferred consumption. That means whatever I'm saving, I'm investing, I'm going to consume it somewhere in my life after 5 years, after 10 years, after 20 years for some purpose. So if consumption today is important, this is my life only, then consumption later on is also important. Now, if I have to ask you one simple question, how much money you will be requiring 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years down the line for your different consumption need? I bet no one can say correctly. We can have some rough judgment based on inflation 6% or 7%. But practically, if you look at it, we cannot have any judgment. The reason is, since as I told you, lifestyle is something which is very, very rapidly increasing our consumption pattern. So we don't know what new things are going to come in our life, what will be important for us. Just to give you an example, nobody had ever thought of mobile phone 25, 30 years back. And today mobile phone is a necessity. It's important for everybody. Maybe laptop or computer was not even that much of an importance, but today we know that its importance. Not only that, the quality of these things, the new gadgets, the softwares, the application, now they are also adding value in our life. And everything has got a cost. And the cost is also increasing. So if I have to say, I'm more concerned about today's expenditure and I'm not concerned about future expenditure, let's say, which is going to happen 15 years or 20 years from now, that's a wrong way of looking at it. Because investment is all but a deferred consumption. That means I'll be using this money for some future consumption, that money. So that's why the best way is save first and then spend. Now let's look at it, convert high fixed expenses into a variable expenses. So maybe you are having some of the expenses which you can break it down rather than spending something lump sum. Maybe you can break it down and maybe you can do it something on a monthly basis or quarterly basis. So always it is better. That means your expenses is getting reduced. One time high expenses is getting reduced. Buy only that quantity which you require. Now, as I give you again example, we go to some mall and there is a board of buy one, get third one free. And what we do? We buy third shirt also. And we think, okay, I have done a very, very big deal. But ultimately, did you require those things? So buy only that quantity which you require. For example, let's say we have got discount sales. And whenever we go to some shopper's stop or anywhere, we see there is an advertisement, buy one and get third one free. And generally, many people buy third one also, thinking they have got a great deal. But ultimately, do you require the third one? The question is that. If you don't, then why you have wasted some of your money? Maybe you have got it at a lesser cost, but again, you have spent something. So don't buy something which you really don't require it. Avoid high cost loan and interest-free EMI. Now again, there is nothing free, let me tell you. Because again, we are in a country where people are duped by talking something free. There is nothing free, let me tell you. Even many of the apps which you are using, For example, let's say Facebook, Insta. What we are doing? We are putting how we are spending our vacation or where we have been to restaurant or all these things. And we think everything is free. Just think for a second. Why somebody will be spending billions of dollars just to showcase what you have done? Sorry, that's a wrong way of looking at it. They are earning something from somewhere. We don't know. So nothing is free in this world. Please, if anybody is offering you something free, think twice. Avoid high cost loan, because if you are taking a high cost loan, then of course it will be a burden on you, which you have to pay off at something. Discount and freebies are trap for overspending. Already I've given you example of discount sales. So avoid that. Use digital transaction rather than keeping cash. Now what happens if you are having money in your pocket and we know that, yes, this money belongs to me. I am not accountable or responsible to anybody. So maybe we spend more. But if I'm doing digital transaction, I know I have to pay it later. So that's something, it can put a check on you. But here again, when we are going to talk about how to use credit card and digital transaction, we will be talking about the traps in it. So, but digital transaction is always better than keeping cash. The other thing is, let's say if I'm doing cash transaction, for example, that means I'm not investing that much. But if I'm doing digital transaction, maybe after some cycle, let's say after 30 days, I have to pay it. So this cash, which was idle at my end, if it had got invested, it would have generated some return to me. So always digital transaction with a disciplined approach is better than keeping cash. Be rational in discretionary expenses. So today, as initially I had told you, most of the expenses, many families, mostly it is going on a discretionary side. So one has to be rational. Yes, maybe there are some luxuries, there are some enjoyments, you want to have some good time with your family, do it. Nobody is stopping you, but you have to be rational. The key word here is rational. So what are the key takeaways from this session is eighth wonder of the world, compounding. But it works when the period of investment is long. Longer the period, more you gain. The rate of return is high. And also the frequency of compounding is more. I will give you an example. For example, let's say if somebody goes to a bank and he says, I want to go for a 1-year deposit, let's say, and the bank manager gives him an choice. Sir, the rate of interest is 8%, but you have got a choice. Either you take it annually, but let it be compounded on a half-yearly basis, or let it be compounded on a quarterly basis, or let it be compounded on a monthly basis, or let it be compounded on a daily basis. Let's say if the choice is given. Now the rate of interest is same, 8%. But if it is daily compounding, then the ultimate money or the end money which he is going to get will be more than all other frequency. So the frequency of compounding is also very important. More the frequency, more will be the money growth. Inflation is the biggest enemy of money. Protect from it. That should be the message. A rupee today is better than a rupee tomorrow. Why? Because I can use that money for consumption. I can invest that money and generate some return. And the third one is, if I have to get the same rupee after a year, the purchasing power of that money gets eroded. So definitely a rupee today is more than the rupee tomorrow. What you get in hand, real rate of return, that matters. Nominal return has got no meaning because this is what has been committed to you. But what matters is what I'm having in my hand, because that's the money which I'm going to consume it or use it for any purchases. The more you invest, the more you get. It's simple rule. Now, let me tell you, and I want to end on a lighter note. It's not like the more sugar you put in tea, more taste you will get. Sorry, you are going to add diabetes. So that's not good for health. But here it is not like that. The more money you invest, it's going to benefit only you only. So it works the other way around. So the more you invest, because you are investing for yourself, and as I told you, investment is nothing but a deferred consumption. So the more I invest, more I get. And since future is quite unpredictable, more from the cost point of view, because I don't know what will be the inflation, what will be my new needs. I need to have more money in my hand, because ultimately the usage of the money is consumption only. So these are the key takeaways from this chapter. I hope you have understood the concept, but more than just mere understanding, imbibing and following the principle is equally important. So I thank you, all of you, for staying with me and giving your precious time for this session. Thanks to all of you.